Well, this is Tucker's old baby photograph album. Now, this is not Tucker, but it's representative of Tucker. So I thought it might be interesting because I haven't looked at these in ages. So I thought I'm going to open these up and share these with my YouTube channel. And this is Denis, and that's the day we brought him home. And he was 8 weeks old. And that's when he got the name Tucker. It was meant to be a nickname, but he owned that name. It's a face. Well, summer 2010. That's Scooby Incognito. I mean, Tucker Incognito. Got Scooby on the brain because Scooby's right down there. Okay, here we go. This is the Tucker album. Look at that face. He really was one of a kind. This was him up on behind Parliament. That's where the Queen Elizabeth statue was before it got moved. And that day was very fun because when he was there doing these things, people started asking if they could take pictures with Tucker. Yeah, it's too blurry when I come closer. And there was a lineup of people, and he was there for a good half hour letting people do like a meet and greet and photo ops and things of that nature. But when he was done, and there were still some people in line that were upset because they'd waited like half an hour and not weren't allowed to take pictures with the dog. But I thought, jeepers creepers, people, it's like he's not a tourist attraction, he's my dog. But he always was very, very good for posing, and he was really good on film. He always got acting roles better than I did. So this is at Dow's Lake. More at Dow's Lake. Dow's Lake is kind of across the road, and that's Commissioner's Park. And that would be the Arboretum. More at the Arboretum. And an interesting fact, it is the most northern arboretum in the world. So there are specific species of trees that have been created for the climate here that don't exist anywhere else in the world. So that's kind of cool. And there's Denis with Tucker. That's a good picture of my two boys. I'm not the greatest of photographers, but he was an excellent model and subject. He also used to like to climb trees. This is not an indication of him climbing trees, but he used to love climbing trees. And note the extra skin and stuff around his neck. That collar was always cool. That was him in mid-shake, which I think looks really funny. Always have. And when he wanted to come up in the bed, you had to help him. He couldn't just jump up on the bed, but he'd do that, and then you'd put your hand down and you would step on your hand and use it like a stair and climb up. So kind of in between, you having to lift him and him getting up there on his own, right in between. And that was a sort of clear paw print that I took a picture of in the snow because he loved his snow. He loved to crawl and drag himself through the snow. And there I am with my baby. Oh, I always loved when he would lay on me that way. He is heavy, though. That was down at our independent store. He was there, and he was waiting inside the outer doors, but outside the inner doors. He always had special permission because dogs weren't supposed to be there, but he was always so well behaved, no one cared. And oh, was Tucker in the snow. More snow. Yep, more snow. Tucker. I'm getting glare on this. Yeah, he used to love opening his own presents. There's videos up of him doing that. Or he'd watch when somebody was making cakes. See, that's him doing his present opening things. He was so good. I miss him. This was when we were in a cab. That was his very first cab ride. And that's with family. That's Denise's mom and sister. And I can't tell because they have no head. But he was always a real hit whenever we'd go visiting people. That's when Denise looked really good. So did Tucker. The good old days. Oh, here we are at Denise's mother's again, and everybody was smoking, and Tucker is not a smoker, and you can just tell by the look on his face he is not impressed. Oh, it's really fun going down memory lane. Oh, that's his winter coat. The very first time we put that coat on him, we were walking underneath an evergreen tree and a big slushy pile of ice slush, kind of. We came down across his back, and he blamed the coat because that never happened to him before he put the coat on. So he didn't like the coat after that. He'd still wear it, but he didn't like it. Which, means a lot when you're, oh, there's the carrot. He went through so many carrots. Oh, yeah. Like, there's a normal face. Tucker with his carrots. When he was a baby, we used to get 10 pounds of carrots, and he'd go through that in 3 days. He ate an insane amount of carrots, to the point where I actually asked the vet, going, is there such a thing as too many carrots? And they said, well, if they're not cooked, apparently if they're cooked, it releases the sugar, and it makes them higher in sugar. But if you're giving them to them raw, they don't even get any nutrients from them. They just pass right through. So they're like 0-calorie foods, which I thought was very handy because he ate so many carrots, he had bright orange poop. But he really did enjoy his winter walks, and he made me enjoy the winter more than I certainly do otherwise. But he was such a special dog. I used to always have to photobomb his pictures because, he was the star. He was always the star. But he was always so humble. So humble. And always an interesting subject between like the lines and wrinkles in the face and his behaviors. He was always so good. Oh, and there's us at the pet store. Now that pet store doesn't exist anymore. It is now an olive oil place, the Refined Olive. And that's Sue. We used to call her Auntie Sue in the pet store. She was the first really knowledgeable person in a pet store that we used to talk to. And we learned a lot from her. She was wonderful. And then she went down and started working at Healthy Pets, which is also a wonderful pet store. I can't believe I'm only about halfway through these. Oh, there he is with a stick in his mouth. I'm going to see if I can get through these a little bit faster. just in case people are getting bored with this, because I find it so much fun because I forget. Now, this is our where we were at the last place, and that is our back parking lot. And there was so much water that one year that the garbage cans were floating around it like they were boats. It was a good, I'd say, good foot deep at least, possibly more. And it's all a dirt parking lot back there for 4 vehicles. So it was a big flooded area. And our old sofa, actually it was a love seat, and we called it the Tucker love seat because he claimed it as his own. And that was a tree in the backyard. I think these are the things that started him on his voyage to tree climbing, because whenever he'd find a tree that he could climb up, he would climb up. And this was when we were at, the coffee shop was Starbucks. Yes, it was a Starbucks down by the Lord Elgin, both of which are closed now. Thank you, pandemic. This is us by the Armory. And that is Denis and his mom again. Oh, this is nice having this picture because with her being gone now, she never really liked getting her picture taken, so she would never look at the cameras. Whereas Tucker knew where the camera was. He was always good for posing. I didn't have to really call him or attract his attention. He'd be like, oh, there's a camera, look that way. Oh, and that's him with his friend Yukon. They both passed in a relatively short period of time of each other. They were really good friends, and they were very, very much the same age. Oh, that was his first year. That was his first birthday. So I made a big bone cake. And the big problem is I made a cake that only people could eat. So I rectified that in other years where I made a cake made out of meatloaf and covered it in mashed potato icing. And so I redid the bone in a way that everybody was able to eat it. And it was just very, very plain, but it was so good. But I was proud of that cake, and I made the crown for him because, he deserved it. He's like royalty. There's a better picture of the cake. So I had done four cupcakes on the ends and a little rectangle sort of loaf pan that was partially filled. And then I just carved out little curves at the end so that I could fit the cupcakes in there, and ta-da, bone. And this is at Conroy Pit. I'm pretty sure that's Conroy Pit. The other pit is Bruce Pit, but I'm pretty sure this was Conroy Pit. And it was a wonderful day. Yeah, getting the ride there. Now this is at the bank. He was well received at the bank. one of their favorite clients. Now this was his pool, which wasn't ready to be used at that time. You hook up a hose to it, and that elephant's nose sprinkles out water up like a fountain. But that was his own pool. He would wade around and splash around in that. And this is the way that picture actually is. But for some reason, I kind of like having it this way. Don't ask me why. And that was him with his deer antler. And I thought, geez, if he had another one on the other side, he'd look like a walrus. Because naturally, he looks like a manatee. He's like a land manatee. Oh, I think that was Sydney. Gosh, I forgot Sydney was so young then, because she's kind of a grown-up now. very frightening. And he always had sort of like this weird sort of flying squirrel symbol on his chest that I thought, that would be his superhero power. Flying squirrel. Oh, yes, that's right, because that's Coco. And that would be Colette, and that would be down where they would do the kayak races by the river. Yes. So much fun. I forgot how much fun we had exploring the city. Yes. It's going back such a long time now. But it's really nice kind of reliving these memories. I could just hear this. And that is down near the Independent. I think it was called Hartman's at the time still. And he always liked his really oversized sticks. He'd be dragging them around. It'd be so much fun. Yeah. He would frolic. And he swam like an otter. He had a lot of drag because of the extra loose skin pulling in the water, but then he also had very webby kind of feet, so it kind of balanced out. But he really did look like an otter in the water when you'd watch him. And he loved going and exploring flower beds, but he never trampled them down. He was always so respectful. And that's the thing. I would have him just walking down the street like this. He was known and well received, and we'd have bylaw come up and say, "What a beautiful dog," and I'd say, "Thank you," and they would drive on their way. So that was Tucker's baby album. Maybe I'll do that for the older one, the older pictures and such, when I pull that out. I've packed that book away, as I'm going to do with this one. So I hope everybody else got a little bit of enjoyment out of seeing his pictures. And until the next time, as always, take care of yourselves and each other.